welcome back to Hollywood Studios. Today I want to show you how to make your own collage paper and how to do your own abstract painting using different techniques. I'm going to be using the jelly press and my brayer, and we already have a video about how to use the jelly press, so if you need to go back and review that, please do. I'm going to do one real quick here so you can see. And I'm also going to list everything you're going to need in the description, so you'll have it all written down. You'll need your jelly press, your brayer, acrylic, like a thick acrylic paint. You're also going to need like the craft paint that's like more liquidy. And I like them in the bottles like this because you'll see why. Paint markers and a brush. Any kind of brush will do, is fine. And also I like using, as I've shown you in some videos before, I like to use the Catalyst Artist Wedge. And this one is the straight edge. They also come with the ridges in different shapes. If you don't have one of those, it's okay. You can use a credit card. What else? You're going to need some paper. So I'm using tissue paper. I'm also using just regular paper out of a big sketchbook. And I can also use rolled paper that comes on the roll, like craft paper. Or even just copy paper is fine too. But let's start with the first type of abstract painting, which is on the jelly press. And we're going to flip the camera around and I'm going to show you how to get started. Okay, so I wanted to show you this first. This is a piece that is still in progress, but I wanted you to notice the background. So I have some of my jelly press abstract. This is actually tissue paper that I collaged down. And here it is in this section and here as well. I also have some splashy paint. And regular paper from magazine cutouts. But I want to show you how to make this because it makes for a really cool effect if you need a pop of color or just something different and fun and bright. So I'll put this away. We used the jelly press before, but I just want to go over it real quick. So this is a large jelly press. They come smaller, but I like using this size. And the brayer. And here's one that I actually did double process here where I did a roll with some abstract objects laying down, and then I did with the brayer just some random color. And I like to keep these even if they're not perfect because I'll tear them up or glue them down to canvas later. But it's a fun way to make abstract. This one kind of got stuck together. Here's another one, which is a nice blue color. But I did all these using the jelly press. So I'm going to show you really quick again how to use a jelly press. You're going to need on hand some tissue paper. And I had tissue paper. What did I do with it? What did I do with my tissue paper? It's right here. Here it is. And I just got this at the dollar store. It's fine. You can also use colored tissue paper if you want. I'm just going to use white. And you want to have your paper ready to go. So, because this process, it can dry very quickly. So you want to have your paper ready. All right, when you're using the jelly press, you want to use a thicker, heavier bodied acrylic paint. It should come out of the tube. It should look, it should look like that. You don't want to use thin craft paper or thin craft paint. It's too goopy for this process. You need something thick that can easily roll. And since I already made that little mess, I'll just add to it. Just a few dots. You don't have to use a lot. The more paint you use on this, the bigger gobby mess you have to clean up. And you really don't need that much paint. Just maybe like the size of a quarter, maybe even less. I'm going to use this color. And I'm just putting them in random spots on the jelly press. I'm going to go for, I think I'm going to go for maybe 4 colors. Okay, so I have black, yellow, turquoise, just a little bit of black, and some pink. And you need your brayer. If you don't have any of this, maybe you can even just try experimenting with a paint roller and some paper and just random like paint. It doesn't have to be fancy acrylic. But I'm going to start in one corner and just pick up these splotches of paint. And that's it. You don't want to go too much because then you'll mix all the colors up and make a muddy mess. But I really like that pattern. And I'm going to lay down my tissue paper on top gently and smooth it out. And I don't want to press down too hard. It's going to pick up the paint. I don't want to press too hard because then it'll tear the paper when I pull it out. And I'm going to pull it gently. You can see, because it is tissue paper, it wants to rip and do crazy things. Okay, I screwed that one up. I had to start all over again. I think this paper sucks. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of paint down. You don't want to use a lot, just... And you just take it and you run it back and forth and make a random pattern. Take your paper, your scrap paper, lay it down, smooth it out. If you're using lots of acrylic paint, the tissue paper is not going to be strong enough to handle the pull off. So use a regular paper like I'm using here. Pull it slow and steady. Okay, perfect. That's really beautiful. I'm going to set that aside. And you can kind of give it another swipe if you want and use what's left on here for another pass. And I'm just picking it up with this paper. And that one turned out nice too. And I'm going to keep that one. Like the other video, I showed you how to use magazine pages to get magazine image transfers. So that's what this is. So if you want to try that, go back and watch that video. I'm not going to do that this time because I need to show you different things with abstract painting. Let me show you really quick how to get something like this. I call this like Matisse shapes. So give me 1 second. So I cleaned the jelly plate off, and I should mention use baby wipes or just water and wipes, nothing harsh, no Windex, no harsh like dish soap or anything like that. Now I'm going to do something like this where I have an abstract pattern, and I'm going to use this black paint. So again, you just want to use about like that much, just a little bit more. And roll it out. And this time I'm going to roll it out evenly. Maybe just a little bit more paint. I'm just making a solid color. You can also use different colors for this if you want, but just I'm going simple here. And you can also go all the way to the edge if you want, or maybe just do some shadow swipes. I cut out just with scrap paper, I cut out random shapes, and I'm going to lay them on in no particular order. I'm just putting them on randomly. Okay, maybe one more. And then I'm going to take my paper. Let's just use tissue paper. It's right here. I'm going to put the tissue down. And I'm just going to gently press it in here and peel it off. It's great to use tissue paper because it's transparent and you can overlay it on top of other things and still see like color come through. Now I'm going to take these off and throw them away, and that's it. So I have this really cool abstract. Maybe if you had a lot of paint on here left over, you could do another swipe, but I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to wipe this down before it dries. You don't want to leave paint sitting on your jelly plate because it could stain and ruin your plate. So give it a nice swipe with your baby wipes. And don't forget to wipe your brayer down. Okay, so that's I showed you how to do those, and now I'm going to show you how to just make random patterns on regular white paper using different tools, different techniques. You can also, if you want, you can use your jelly press. Do I need to pull this back in? Just pull this back in. Use your jelly press and your brayer and get some paint loaded up and just put it on your paper. And just make, you know, random shapes. Also, you can use your artist wedge like this, or if you don't have one of these, you can use a random credit card or gift card. But I'm just gonna put a blob right here. Oops, that was bad. On my paper, and take my squeegee and pull it across and make some fun shapes that way. Make sure you get it all up too, because if you leave a big blob, this takes longer to dry. Another thing you can use is just regular craft paint. And what I like to do is, especially when it gets low, instead of tossing them out thinking you're finished with the paint, just add just a few squirts of water in there. Shake it up and just like splatter on there. You can also drag it and make a very beautiful abstract painting. You can also use paint markers. If you get them all pumped up, get all of the paint in the tips and wipe it like that, you get some really beautiful speckle marks. You can use a brush if you want to just make random swipes, calligraphy, words, whatever you want to use. Just give it a few swipes that way. You could even make some pencil marks. You can even use an eraser to draw with. I have different tools on hand, different types of things to make marks. Lay this aside, let it dry, add it to your collection. Now I'm going to take what I made and put it on canvas. I'm going to show you how to collage it to make a really strong, fun background, or it can just be an abstract painting. One more thing I forgot to tell you. So if you want to kind of also experiment with your spray painting techniques, I like to make random marks like letters on just some regular rolled out craft paper or scrap wrapping paper, and just, you know, have fun. Use this as an opportunity to practice your spray painting, and then you can take it and cut out, you know, some of these patterns. Or you can tear it, and you can use this to collage with. Pretty much anything, you know, anything you want to use to like practice with, if you practice painting, or if you're just making, you know, what I say to my kids, scribble scrabble. Even use some of their scribble scrabble art. You can put that in your collage. But there's many different ways to do it, but this is more like an experimental mode. Don't try to be too precise, or don't get frustrated. Just, you know, just go with it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to collage onto the canvas, and I'll show you how to layer these things on. All right, so I have this canvas, which I was using for a demo in our spray paint technique video. I'm just going to repurpose it for this abstract collage project. I have the gel medium, matte medium, which is what I use in every video. I've just poured some into a cup, and I'm using my chip brush, and I'm going to work all over this canvas. So typically, as you've seen in the other collage basic videos, I like to work from left to right. You don't have to do that, but I like to work in sections. So I'm just gonna smear this on, and I'm using it fairly thickly and thoroughly. That's the key thing. And I'm just gonna grab one of the pieces that I just made, and I'm going to center it onto my canvas, and I want to take the same matte medium and press it, make sure there's enough underneath. Actually, I'm going to rip this off because we don't need it. Get all the extra off. I'm just going to go for this, so I'm not thinking about how I'm placing these. I'm just putting them on so you can see. I'll grab another piece, maybe this one. If you work with smaller pieces, it's a lot easier to tear into place instead of giant sheets. So this is a manageable size. I'm just going to... This is the tissue. It's a lot easier to collage on. In fact, you don't want to rub into it too hard, you'll tear it. And it's going to have wrinkles. There's no super flat way to do this. Okay, looking good so far. Use this piece. I'm just going to tear off the extra white. Oops, I'm slinging. All right. Also, as an extra reinforcement, just to flatten out some of these pockets of air in here, I'm just going to use my artist wedge. This actually has paint on it, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to smooth it out. You can use a credit card also, and you'll have all this extra goop. I just slide it right back into my cup. And oh, there's this really fun image that we made. And I think I'm going to lay that here. The cool thing about tissue paper is that if you get it wet enough, the matte medium will soak through it and go all the way through, so you don't have to try too hard to glue these pieces down. They just sort of glue themselves. And then I like some of the textures that it leaves, like these little wrinkles. They're actually pretty cool. This is not like precision art. If you need things to be nice and neat and smooth, I don't think you're gonna like this technique. So be patient, be open to, even like this little sliver of tissue paper, I think is very interesting. Just adds to the abstract. Okay, cut. So what I think was cool and worth mentioning is that the tissue paper, like I said, I like using tissue because you can see underneath, you can see through it, and you don't lose any of your cool details that you have underneath. Also, if your paper's thin enough, you kind of get that effect as well. And I can just keep going and going and layering on more. We made this one. We should probably try to layer this one on. I could do that. I think this paper's a little thick. It would have worked better if I had more of a thinner paper, but I'm going to use this for something else, maybe cut it up into small pieces and make random shapes. But speaking of random shapes, your spray paint practice paper makes great collage paper, and I'm going to put that down also. And this paper is a little thicker, so I want to use just a little bit, be more generous with the glue. And I'm just using like the straight edge kind of to the edge of the canvas. You don't have to, but that's how I decide how I'm going to lay it. And I'm putting enough of the matte medium on top to give it a nice slick surface so I can really press out those air pockets and press it into the canvas. And with the thicker paper, you can use the artist's wedge. To kind of like get it in there. So already I have a really fun surface. I could add more stuff to it. I could take some of your watered down craft paint and make some, we'll cut that out, some random splash marks, and even, you can take it and let it drip. What else can I do? You can clean your brushes off. Sometimes that's how I make abstract, is I just use it to clean the brush off, get extra paint off. You can even take it, lay it down on the ground, which maybe I should do, and put something down in spray paint and pull it off, and you have a stencil. So let's do that. You might have to cut it so I can get all that shit ready. These are old scissors. So I keep a lot of these. I keep a lot of crappy jewelry, like beads and stuff. So I use them in stencils, even like old molding. This is an old picture frame. What else can I use? I don't know. Cardboard cutout stuff. I think this is enough. We'll use this. Okay. And I'm not going to think too hard about this. I'm just going to lay things down randomly. Like literally. Randomly. And get some spray paint. I want to use dark spray paint. Give me 1 second. Think too hard about it. Just grab a bunch of stuff and all right, so I'm going to stop here, stop while I'm ahead, let this dry overnight. I might add another layer of random collage paper or spray paint or splash marks, but I think it's pretty good the way it is. I could put a photograph down on top of this, or I can just leave it as it is if I just want a fun abstract. Here's a piece I wanted to talk about, and it has a lot of the elements that I just showed you with abstract painting, graffiti, splash marks, layering, and as you can see down here, I have a lot of the, this is just the random collage, the random graffiti markings that I made, like I made here. And it all came from this sheet of paper, which is, I call it my practice paper. And, you know, I just cut out, it doesn't say anything in particular, it's just random shapes. But I use those to cut out and collage into this piece. And I have, you can see the slash marks from different types of paint that I'm using. I'm using kids craft paint. I'm using latex house paint here. It's very ooey and gooey and drizzly, so it's fun to like kind of swish it around. This is thinned down acrylic paint, glitter paint, and then of course I put the photographs on top and collage different elements like jewelry onto them. In the background though, I started out this whole piece with just a neutral, well, what I call neutral background with like random images from magazines, especially like girly things like makeup, and some of it's vintage magazines from like the 70s, which I have a lot of. And then on top is a whole section, like the pink cloud in their head is all like random embellishments. And first I put down a ground of paint, and then I put the embellishments on top, and then I coat it in resin. That's a whole nother video. I'll show you how to use resin. And I only use the resin on the upper part of this painting, not the bottom. Resin is really fun. It can also be very, very crazy and permanent. So you need to be comfortable with it when you're working with it, and I'll show you how to do that. But what resin does is it, for these big chunky things, it helps really seal them in. And it gives it, of course, that really wonderful gloss, high sheen, but it also secures the things and they're not coming out. They're in there permanently. So this is a great example of like everything in the kitchen sink all in one piece. And I actually have 3 of these. This is one of a trilogy. It's called Take Back Your Crown. It's about female empowerment, and it's just a really fun piece where I kind of like just went a little crazy and put everything I could into one piece. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. And you know, you can take it as far as you want to go. If you want to just abstract paint, get yourself a large canvas and just go crazy, try different things. Or you can try to create a, you know, composition that's, you know, figurative. I like both, so this is a way to combine abstract and figurative, and this is just purely abstract. Sometimes less is more, sometimes more is better. You just have to, when you're doing abstract, you have to like give it some breathing time, come back to it the next day, decide if you want to add more layers or not. You have to listen to your voice to tell you when you think the piece is done. But I think this one's good for today, and I thank you for joining me. I had a lot of fun. This was fun and spontaneous. And I can't wait till we meet again for the next video. Bye.